Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm back after a little break, and I'm excited about a few things on the horizon for Dark and Darker. The footage in the background here is clearly pre-patch, before the Goblin Caves were removed from play. I'm on a warlock here, practicing with longsword, and as you will see, I still need a lot more practice. Feel free to mock my terrible longswording in the comments below. But yeah, I thought with the wipe coming up, I would take a little break before the new season kicked off. Of course, like many of you, I thought that would be a week or two ago. After Iron Mace announced a delay to the wipe and also announced a period of, quote, various trials and drastic balance changes, end quote, well, I got a little frightened and then a tad bit emotional about the state of things. I reflected back to a comment made on one of my videos, Iron Mace, This is the Way, from a wise commenter who recommended I take a little break to gain some perspective. It was a good idea. And with that perspective, I'm now back to talk about some new things. You might remember in that video I was discussing three things from a rather technical perspective. Firstly, I discussed that the game urgently needed some performance improvements. I'm happy to report that improvements have been made, and we are in a far better position than when I raised the issue in early February. Performance is acceptable, if not great. I also discussed this pattern of one step forward, two steps back, which has kind of plagued the release cycle for the game since it first went into early access. I'm very sorry to report that that pattern continues and may in fact be at its all-time worst. Let's just take a look at hotfix 34, released on February 29th, where the team at Iron Mace made all maps playable again in all queue types. Yay! Only hotfix 35 dropped the next day on March 1st, removing all maps but two. But that's not what I'm here to discuss today. I have been asked to do a reoccurring series where I continue to discuss the software quality process on a roughly monthly basis and kind of provide a check-in and a process-oriented report card, if you will. And if you're interested in that kind of video, please express your desire in the comments section below. But what I'd really like to talk about today is the last point I raised in that video, Iron Mace, This is the Way. That point is communication, specifically technical communication. Longtime viewers should already know this, but I'll restate it here for emphasis. I love Dark and Darker, and by extension, Iron Mace. We are in a relationship, but it's complicated. As many of you know, the most important thing for a healthy relationship is communication. So today, I'd like to talk a little bit about technical communication, how I'd like to see that communication structured, and why I think it will greatly improve our productivity as testers, intrinsically increase the value that the devs are getting out of their experimentations. It will also greatly reduce the amount of kind of disgruntlement in the community, and I'm going to discuss why. I'm making this video now because we are on the verge of something very exciting. We are going to gain access to a UAT/experimental server for the game. At least the OG crowd who purchased the Hold the Line game bundles. Okay, we got to hold on here for a second because there's somebody with heavy boots on the other side of this door and it seems like they're pushing me. Could be a cleric, but no, it's a fighter. All right, I'm going to give you a Hydra and then I'm going to drop into Phantomize. I'm going to dance around while you soak some of this damage, and then I'm going to door you. Alright, good news. So this guy's hot to trot. He is going to come in here, and I've got Flamewalker already set up for him, and that's too much. Alright, so he goes down. Cool. Just a little tip, if you are using a Life Drain build with Warlock, the spellbook it doesn't provide quite as much healing as it probably should. You'll see here in a second, I'm going to swap over to the Magic Twig, because the magic power there really helps in the equation for additional healing. You can just watch this right here. I throw another Hydra. This time I'm going to use the Twig, and watch the health come back. And vastly superior. So it's a nice little hack if you're running a budget Warlock kit like I am here in High Roller, just to be able to get, more uptime on healing, less downtime, etc. But going back to what we were talking about, we are on the verge of gaining access to that UAT server. And if you bought the Hold the Line edition, that game bundle, you will gain access to it as well. Now, a little bit about myself. As an engineer, my love language is data. I am strongly attracted to transparency. Patch notes, in my opinion, need to be as specific and transparent as possible. Verbosity only helps here. Okay? So instead of a patch which reads like this, okay, I would prefer it to read like this. That level of detail really matters over the long term, particularly to direct us, the volunteer testers, towards area where additional testing and feedback are really needed. So this subset of the community who will participate actively in a future UAT server, we are there for the testing. Like, we are resources at your disposal, Iron Mace. But just like any extended team resource, we need a minimal amount of direction to provide you, the developers, maximum value. We need to know what to test. We need to know why we are testing that thing, and we need to understand for how long the test unit will run. Now, I'm going to make up something here. It's completely ridiculous. I'm going to create this ridiculous and hilarious example to illustrate the structure of what I would like to see in our test units moving forward. Hi, we are concerned that the Barbarian class is struggling in mid-ranged engagements, particularly against Rangers and Wizards. We will be conducting a test unit for the next 7 days, from March 4th, 2024 through March 11th, 2024. We are adjusting the base damage of the common quality Franiacs from 15 damage to a new base 300 damage. Fighters and bards will no longer be able to use Franiaxes during this test. Now, what this structure and detail communicate to us is critically important. Firstly, we know how long something is being tested for, when it starts, and when that test is likely to conclude. With that knowledge, we can organize our playtime to ensure that we are there for that test, or informed such that we can skip that test unit if we think it will be onerous or frustrating to us as individuals or players. Secondly, we have context into what you, the developers, are thinking. This is the casus belli, the reason why the test or the experiment is important. Lastly, we have the specific changes that are being made, and through these specifics, direction can be inferred. Based on this, once again, ridiculous example, I know that I should log into the test server during a certain time. I know I should create a barbarian. I need to buy more Franiaxes than usual, and spend an hour or two throwing them at every wizard or ranger that I see. Or, conversely, I could be a foil for the control group. I could log in and create a ranger or wizard and spend an hour or two dodging barbarians throwing overpowered Franiaxes for an hour or two. The amount of direction, the amount of focus and concentrated effort that you're going to get out of structuring your test units in this way, it's practically immeasurable. Right now, our communication is vague. There is very little developer design intent communicated. We don't have the context to understand why the changes that are being made to the game are important to you. We don't understand what each experiment is hoping to test, and we don't understand why the outcome is important to the creative vision. If we had just this 1 or 2 additional levels of detail, we can be considerably more productive as testing resourcers. And a lot of the frustration, which I see inside the community and on Reddit, it's going to dissipate somewhat because we have understanding. We have the context for why these changes, these tests are important to you at this time. The recent example that I'd like to hit on is player concentration. You guys seem like a weather vane in a storm, switching directions back and forth with regard to map selection, and it seems to be underpinned by a concern about player concentration being too low at this, the end of wipe, extended longer by your choices. Why is that important to you in your test plans right now? I don't understand why that is. I do recognize that having a lot of dead lobbies or half-filled lobbies is, it's a poor outcome for everyone, but it's easily explained by the timing. It's easily explained by the changes and the announcements that you've made heading into this period. Without a context to understand why player concentration on certain maps right now is important, it just feels like we are rats in a maze instead of, an extended resource for your team. And I think if you start treating us, the community, like extended resources, resources that can help you guys refine the product, test your changes, and provide critical feedback at the right point, it's going to reduce so much of the noise that I sense your developers are reading on a daily basis on forums, on Discords, and on Reddit. Frankly, Terry, if I were you, I would discourage any of your developers or game designers right now from participating at that level in the community. What we need is structure so that you can get the right feedback at the right time on the right subject matter, narrowly constrained and focused through the lens of your design intent. And I think this is the way to achieve it. Anyhow, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. It helps me a ton. I look forward to seeing you guys again very shortly as we resume our new season of Dark and Darker. I'm extremely excited to be jumping on the test server, and we'll have more content coming soon. Until then, thanks everybody. Koopa out.